Mark, big introduction. He's also an amazing YouTuber. Go and check out his YouTube channel. I say from the get-go, you should definitely go and check out. He has some of the best tutorials in animation. He's also a senior animator at Blizzard, very accomplished animator. It would be great for you to kind of like start chatting about like how you got started, Mark.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so getting into like the game industry, I feel like it's probably similar to, I feel like probably a lot of other people in that like I just grew up loving video games and just
Yeah.
played video games when I was younger. Played them with my older brother. Played a lot of like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 11, a lot of like MMOs. Went to a lot of Halo LAN parties. Did a lot of those.
Xbox,
Yes,
PlayStation,
yeah.
PC.
Yeah, Xbox,
Xbox.
lugged the giant TVs around, got them all hooked up. So I just grew up playing a lot of video games, and then that kind of just naturally transitioned into just like being like, I feel like it would be cool to work on these. Like I love playing video games. Probably be fun to make them. And so I actually started teaching myself Blender a long time ago. It was probably, I might have been like 11 or 12 years old. This was probably like in 2003, 2004. So like Blender's UI was a mess back then.
Wow.
Definitely not how it is
Yeah.
today. I definitely didn't know I wanted to do actual like character animation. I just was trying to mess around with kind of everything to see what sort of like clicked for me and like what I enjoyed most. So I did a lot of 3D modeling, a lot of like lighting and rendering. And it wasn't until high school that I started actually getting into character animation. I don't know if you ever remember Digital Tutors.
Of
It was
course.
like a online video
Yeah.
training. That was actually the
Absolutely.
first studio I joined after finishing Animation Mentor, but I actually was subscribed to them like all through high school, just
Oh,
learning.
I see.
I joined them as they were starting like a written tutorial side of
Yeah.
things. So I joined as like a animation rigging written tutorial. Then I eventually moved to actually doing like the video tutorials.
And so going from digital tutors, being a tutor, writing tutorials, written tutorials, to then going into games. I mean, it must have been a hard jump to actually go from I have no experience to all of a sudden going into games, because the
Yeah.
connection is very clear. It's not very clear going
Yeah.
from one format to the other, right?
It was definitely difficult, and I did not have a lot of confidence in my animation abilities because like when I was working at Digital Tutors, their like bread and butter was doing intro courses. Like that's where they made most of their money. So like the video tutorials I was making was like intro to animation in Maya, and it was like, here's how to set a keyframe and here's how to like delete keyframes and all the basics of it. So I was doing that for like 3 years. So I really wanted to leave and like work on games, but there was definitely a side of me that obviously like scared like leaving a job.
Of course.
And risking that, stability. And so I actually, I like made the choice. I was like, I'm going to spend a year to focus on making a better reel while I'm still working here. Just spend a year just like focusing on animation in my free time. And then about a week after I decided that was when Pluralsight shut the studio down.
Oh no.
So I was like, okay, so I don't have a year. I need to do this now.
Wow, that was a quick turn left. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you actually, now you don't have a year, you have a week. So what happened next?
So I was really fortunate because when I was in high school taking Animation Mentor, there was one animation studio near where I lived called Steelhouse Productions. And they were a really small studio. They did some animation, but they also did like a lot of motion graphics, kind of commercial work and that kind of thing. But they had 2 animators there. And I interned there while I was in Animation Mentor for a couple months before joining Digital Tutors. So I like reached out to them and I was like, hey, I just got laid off. You guys aren't looking for an animator, are you? And then they were like, actually, yeah, we've got some projects that we might need you on. So I was like,
perfect
okay.
time.
Yeah, so I got laid off on a Thursday and I went and interviewed there the day after on Friday. Ended up getting like a 2-month severance from getting laid off, and then I just started the next job and they paid a little bit more. So I was like, okay, maybe this wasn't so bad. Yeah.
That is amazing. That's really, really cool. So that was the first step into actually working full time as an animator. Was
Yes.
that a game gig, or was it like
It was a lot of different things. So they were a small studio, so they're just working on kind of just any project they can get. So I worked on like this short film Did a lot of VR, AR stuff. And then I worked on just a few smaller like animation gigs at that studio.
You actually got determined to actually get into games. So how did that jump happen? Did it take
Uh,
longer than you expected, or
I applied for, it actually wasn't for a game, but it was for an animated kids show called Flugels. That was for NBC.
Flugels?
Flugels, yeah.
I don't know it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Sounds
super
interesting.
well known. It's just like these three little alien characters, really fun, like cartoony style of
Right.
animation. So I was like, I think I'm just going to go freelance and try that for a little bit. And then working on that TV show was even another push of like, I really want to work on games because like TV show deadlines, they're tricky and
That's super tricky. Yeah. To
yeah, and
put it
it's
mildly. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
it did definitely help me in figuring out I needed to fix and work on my workflow, like layered and just trying to find a new method. Working on that TV show actually ended up working out because at the same studio that was working on the TV show, they were like, "Hey, we got Spyro Reignited trilogy. Would you be
Yeah.
interested in working on that?" And I was like, "Yes, of course I would." So yeah, I joined on Spyro on like the cinematics, working on the third one for that like remaster. So that
Nice.
was like my first experience working on like a bigger game like that.
That's
Um,
amazing. That's amazing. And like, so I know you from Dauntless,
mhm.
because of the animations that you made and stuff. Was that like straight away after, like after, or did it took you a few years to get there?
That was pretty soon after working on Spyro,
Yeah.
because I was working on Spyro. I knew there was only like a few months of work left on it. Believe Steamroller reached out to me because I think I'd posted some animations on like LinkedIn or something. So they were
Okay.
like, "Would you be
Yeah.
interested in interviewing?" And I was like, "Sure." And then yeah, I realized they seemed like a really cool place to work, and they were working on some really cool projects. So I was like, I decided to leave working on Spyro a little bit before the project was actually done because I was like, I'm not sure if there's
Too
going to be
excited.
another gig after
Oh, I
this
see.
too, and like, so I was like, I think this will be yeah a better option. So I ended up joining Steamroller. That's when I started working on Dauntless, which was like
That's
kind of my first working on actual like kind of in-game animation.
also, were you actually doing cutscenes previously, for the most
Yes,
part
yeah.
instead of
Spyro was
gameplay?
all like cutscene type of stuff.
That makes sense. That actually makes complete sense. So, how was that change? Because it's always interesting to me. How was that change? Because I got it the other way around. I actually got studying gameplay and then ended up in doing
Okay.
cinematics at the point. And then I was like, actually, gameplay. So I went back to gameplay. So how was that change? Because obviously it's way more complicated, and engines and things, they can be fickle things.
For me, it was intimidating because I had never done that before. I mean, just in general, like imposter syndrome was like definitely rearing its
Huge.
head then. Yeah.
Iteration, gameplay, those things are like definitely something that I've seen so many animators that come from film, VFX, actually basically crumble under the constant iteration that you have to do in games. Longer cycles, shorter cycles,
Hmm.
more idles, idle breaks, different directions, things like
Yeah.
that. How did you found all that? Did you found that
Uh,
intimidating?
I actually found that to be really fun for me because like because I hadn't really experienced much of that, especially working on
Mm.
like cutscenes or anything. And I got to really enjoy doing like the transition animations and that kind of thing.
Right, right, right.
Um, the animations that usually aren't the most like flashy, they're not like cool attack animations, but they do really increase like the quality of the animation in game when you actually start
You
like
do.
stubbing in like the nice transitions to everything. So it's
Night and
like
day.
it's a fun process when you see that change of like where it looked before when you just had like straight blends between like your run to an idle
Yeah,
animation to actually go in there and like hand animate like a really cool
yeah.
transition. um yeah, it definitely was different, but it was a fun process to
Fun
learn all
process.
that. Yeah.
If you're looking at transitions and you enjoying doing the transitions and seeing that iteration process, then it tells me that you're genuinely a gameplay animator through and through. Because there's a lot of people that go like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like you can barely
Yeah.
see it. It's like it happens for a second. You can barely see it.
Yeah.
And when does it happen? So the fact that you actually enjoy that, that actually is really cool to hear. I would like to actually go into the last stage of your career, and then we can talk about YouTube, answer some questions, talk about YouTube. But
Yeah.
the last stage of your career, at this point in time, obviously, because you're young, so you have lots of career ahead of you. But going from obviously working on Dauntless to then now working in Blizzard, you've been working on Blizzard for how long now?
I think almost a year. It's like
A year now.
11 months or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
hmm
how did that transition happen, and how are you finding it?
Before Blizzard, I was working for People Can Fly. Working for People Fly was really fun experience as well because
Yeah.
just another group of super talented animators.
That's cool.
Ricky Wood teaches at I Animate. I learned
Oh,
so
yeah, yeah.
much from him. Yeah, it
I saw
was.
him. I don't know him, but I saw him, and he's
Yeah, I
really
mean,
talented. He's a
talk
cool
about
dude.
being like intimidated when you're working with someone like that, and like
Yeah,
every
yeah,
animation they show, you're just like, oh, how the heck did they do that? Yeah, but you work there, so you get like a chance to actually like learn how they do it, which is awesome. So after Steamroller, I actually went to ZeniMax for a little bit to work on
Mhm.
Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, it was lots of fun creature animation for that as well.
Of course.
And that's kind of how it ended up. Like after working on Dauntless, Dauntless was like my first work into doing any creature animation, but I
Yeah.
definitely fell in love with working on big creatures and working on that gameplay side of things. So yeah, I went to ZeniMax for a little bit, worked on Elder Scrolls Online, then went to People Can Fly, and that transition to go to People Can Fly was a lot of it actually came down to wanting to work permanent remote. It was a tough choice because I really enjoyed working there too. Another group of really talented animators, a really fun game to work on. So,
Yeah.
but I was like, I think this is just what I need to do. Gave my wife and I a chance to move back home closer to family. So it was like one of those things where I was like, this is just, I think this is
Very
where I
cool.
need to,
Yeah.
need to do. So yeah, I was able to work remote for People Can Fly for a couple of years before joining Blizzard.
That's great. I guess like COVID, like most people, gave you perspective about being close to family, what's
hmm
important in life. Career obviously is
Yeah.
going well, but it's not everything and things like that. Do you think that's
Yeah, exactly. It was,
yeah,
definitely gave a different perspective. And we had been moving around quite a bit. Like we moved to Florida to work at Steamroller, then we moved
yeah,
to Maryland to work at ZeniMax, and it was like
yeah,
doing that for a couple of years, and then just being like, I think we have a chance to actually, you know,
yeah.
go back home closer to family. So
That's great, man. And now at Blizzard, are you working also remote, full remote? I
yes,
guess this is the same, right?
yeah, I was able to join as like a permanent remote for them.
Perfect.
So yeah, still
That is
able to
really
work
cool.
remote.
And are you enjoying it? How's things? How are you
Yes,
feeling?
yeah, it's been really awesome so far.
Yeah.
Definitely a studio that when I first, started to get into animation, as I was working at Animation Mentor, like Blizzard would be one of the places
Oh
that,
yeah.
yeah,
Blizzard
I would
back
want to
then.
work at. Yeah, it was
Absolutely.
like definitely the aspiration. So yeah,
Yeah.
finally actually getting to work there is definitely a big milestone. Definitely intimidating too. Lots of crazy talented animators there.
Super.
A
Yeah.
lot to learn too, but it's really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, exactly. So we were talking about this just offline about like how like intimidating must be to have all these animators around you with a lot of talent, right? But at the same time, it makes you like elevate your game most likely because you
Yeah.
don't sit on your laurels, even though you've been working for so many years. You feel like you can still there's still a ways to go for you to before you hit your max.
Yeah, no, and I and I yeah, like I think I've learned to just like throughout my career, like imposter syndrome is definitely something I've always like and struggled with.
Yeah.
As I've worked in games, like I've always been like, they're gonna find out that like I'm a fraud. I can't do this. It's like any day now. And it was funny because like as I was just getting into like working in games, I was always like, if I work in games for like 3 years, then it'll probably go away. And then it's
Yeah.
like, well, maybe if I get like senior level, then it would definitely go away.
Definitely
And it's
go
like,
away.
no,
Yeah.
it doesn't. Yeah.
I know the feeling exactly. I know the feeling exactly. It's weird. It's very weird because the longer you make it, it becomes again like another career path of like
hmm
just when you're starting animating, you're like, how long can I do this for? Most likely it's going to be a few months, and they're gonna be like,
Yeah.
you are a horrible
Yeah.
lead. What have you done?
Yeah.
Let's get
Yeah.
somebody else. But then it
Yeah.
keeps going. So it's
Yeah.
actually maybe not so bad after all.
Yeah. I think you always imagine it way worse than it ever is. Yeah.
I can definitely see that. Obviously, you have been on YouTube for a while. What was the catalyst, the thing, the passion that actually made you start YouTube, and what keeps you going? Because it's hard.
I think just being able to like teach other people and like seeing the comments of like how a tutorial helped someone figure out like a problem they had. That's like definitely a reason to like keep doing it, and kind of, even though it is like a lot of work. I think like actually what got me interested in like doing YouTube again was actually watching your videos. I would
My
watch your
videos.
videos, yeah, and
Really?
I
Oh
watched all
man,
your videos,
so
and like,
humble. I
and it
love
was
that.
like, yeah, I loved watching them, and I was like, I want to get back into doing
Really?
this. This would be,
Oh
yeah, I
man,
was like, this would be a lot of
great.
fun.
That made my
And
day.
I decided I wanted to do my first video on doing like workflow,
Yeah.
because that was something that I always struggled with when I was learning animation. So I kind of just wanted to share in case anybody else was like having the same struggle I was having
Same
learning
problem.
animation. Yeah. Chances are, like, if you're interested about something, there's going to be other people that find it helpful or interesting too.
I know you have 10 minutes left, Mark, and you have to actually kind of like go because you are a busy guy. So I actually want to thank you a lot for actually kind of like, joining me in this interview.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure to
Yeah. It's
have
been
you
awesome.
here. It's been great. Really
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad we were finally able to do this.
Right?
It's been a long
Exactly.
time coming. Yeah.
I know. I know. Nearly a year, but we did it. We
Yeah.
did
We did it.
it. Okay, guys. Thank you very
Awesome.
much. Thanks
Thank you.
everybody that showed up. See you guys next time.
See ya.
Bye.